I want them to say less today. There's no way to sugarcoat that. We got our ass kicked today. Lots of reasons for it, but those are things that they don't need to sit and think about today. We'll address all those tomorrow. We'll get together. We'll go through the truth of the whole tape and, be hard on each other and find a way to put it to bed so we can come out here and make sure we put our best foot forward and find a way to get a win versus Dallas.
At the voice of 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan just a few minutes ago out at Levi Stadium, where the Niners lose 28-18 at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you here following an ugly one. Brock Purdy did not play, he probably played his worst game since Christmas against the Ravens last year. They didn't run the ball effectively in the first half, then did in the second half, but giveaways and mistakes, and Patrick Mahomes reared their ugly head, and the 49ers fall to 3-4. One more game, as Kyle Shanahan said, against Dallas before hitting the bye week. John, Dennis, tell us what you saw in this one.
I think Kyle summed it up pretty good. I mean, say less and just kind of understand, that you got your butt kicked, right? You got your arse kicked the entire football game. I mean, there were some times, I think in the first half, a couple sacks there, a pick, but, on all levels, offense, like you said, you couldn't run the football. Defense, you couldn't get off the field. And I don't know what's going on with special teams. But special teams is sometimes kind of hard to watch. So, hopefully, you take that attitude, like Kyle Shanahan said, just understanding you got your butt whooped. I mean, this was, the best team in the NFL, Super Bowl champ, back-to-back. And if you want to measure yourself to this football game, I mean, you're not a very good football team because, you had opportunities to compete and you made a lot of mistakes in this football game. And, against this team, things you just cannot do. So it has to be a good week of preparation. You talk about the bye week. I think this team needs to focus on this next game, the Cowboys, because kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs, the 49ers have kind of owned the Cowboys. But if you play like this, it's going to be another tough game here at Levi Stadium.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this right before the end of the game. Maybe they're just not very good. I mean, because if you look at it, the pass game, it's a good Chiefs defense. I'd give them credit, but this is not a new thing. Running the ball has been a problem some of the year. I know that Jordan Mason has really good numbers, but at key times, they haven't been able to get key yards and run the ball, especially in the red zone. Defensively, I don't know what it is. It's a long time coming now. We're not on a short sample size, so let's just say it. It's not a very good defense. Special teams are atrocious, maybe the worst in the league. So, and if I'm defending the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk was out of this game a lot. Deebo Samuel was sick and didn't play a lot. So by the end, Brock Purdy didn't have any of his weapons that he normally has, and they weren't on the same page, so I understand that. But, Kansas City was good, not great today, and yet, as Kyle said, they got their ass kicked. And it's not beyond the realm of possibility that Dallas comes in here and beats them next week, and they're 3-5. They're just, I don't know, call it a Super Bowl hangover, call it the weirdness of the offseason, whatever, all these weird things that have happened around the 49ers. It's clearly affecting the team. As you said, Copes, this was the worst Brock Purdy has looked since Baltimore. But again, he didn't have some of his weapons. I understand that. But even early in the game, he was missing some shots. Brandon Ayuk, before he got hurt, maybe the sun was in his eyes. That catch that he makes over the shoulder is probably a touchdown. It's by inches, but that's what professional sports and football is. They're just not making the big plays at the right time. You could yell out some of the things. Everybody knew that fake punt was coming. They did a nice job with that. Everybody knew that Patrick Mahomes, when they cleared the backfield, was going to run, yet they couldn't figure it out. I mean, it's just they're making mental errors, physical errors, and right now, honestly, they're just not a good football team. They're not.
They're not, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and we'll pour over those over the next hour and a half or so. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. Niners fall to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now Kyle Shanahan 0-5 after a 28-18 loss against the Chiefs in his tenure as 49ers head coach. Let's get you the stat of the game, sponsored by Poppy Bank, located throughout California. Poppy Bank is here to help you hit your financial goals. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender. Originally, I'll just give you two stats of the game here. Originally, I was going to go with third down conversions. They were 1 for 7 in the first half. They finished 2 of 11, and they didn't even pick up a first down offensively until the 6-minute mark of the second quarter. They'd had 1 first down prior to that. It was a pass interference first down on George Kittle over the middle. They could not convert on third down. The other is the Chiefs ran the ball 39 times for 184 yards and 4 touchdowns today. I mean, we've talked about run defense for this defense, and I thought in the first quarter played maybe one of their best quarters all season, and then it all completely flipped once they went to the second.
Yeah, and Mahomes had the nice 33-yard run, and he kind of did, he kind of faked like he was going to go out of bounds, and then I feel bad for D. Winters because it's like he looks bad on the play, but, Mahomes literally stopped and took like a step like he was going to go out of bounds, and you can't, not only can you not touch a quarterback in this league, you can't touch Patrick Mahomes, and so he totally faked out D. Winters, went 33 yards down the sideline. That was a big play because right after the half, and I know we'll get into Ayuk, after that injury and they get the second field goal, you're looking at half going, God, they got dominated, and yet they're only down one score. It's 14-6. And then they get down there, they score, it's 14-12. For some reason, Kyle just hates going for two, so they go for one, and the football gods say, should have went for two, and Carlson misses the extra point, so it's 14-12. And you're kind of looking around going, they haven't played well at all. They haven't run the ball at all. Ayuk's not in the game. Debo's not in the game. And yet it's 14-12. And then from that's where we talked about this in the pregame. Okay, time to close. Second half of the game, it's 14-12. You're in this game. Yeah, you're missing Ayuk. Yeah, you're missing Debo. But you know what? They're missing their top two wide receivers. They're missing their top running back. They've got injuries too. Everybody in the league does. And yet there's Kansas City again making key plays. And more so from our standpoint, the 49ers not making plays because the only touchdown they got, the touchdown was set up by Demo Lenore. They got the ball at the Kansas City 23.
Yeah.
So it's not like they went on an 80-yard drive and, we're dominating. At no point was the offense in sync all day. And then as we always talk about, the 55-yard punt return by McCole Hardman puts them in a tough spot. So every single week you can count on the special teams making a mistake that costs some points. And so they've got to overcome that in some other way. And today, because it's Kansas City and because it's Patrick Mahomes closing and you didn't, you couldn't overcome it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
And we talk about, the Kansas City and we talk about Kyle Shanahan saying that we got our butts kicked. He kind of got his butt kicked a little bit too because, on the defensive side of the ball, you shut down the 49ers. I mean, JP's been running well, but today, not so well. You got Brock Purdy running around in the backfield, throwing interceptions, 3 interceptions today. And then on the defensive side or on the offensive side, Kansas City runs the same thing. Those screens, right? And what's coming. That's what they do. That's what they run. They don't have the receivers, so they're going to do a lot of draws and a lot of screens. And still you can't do it. So that front was dominated. You couldn't tackle again. I don't understand as a defensive lineman how you don't recognize, screens and draws, especially with a team that you've lost 2 Super Bowls to. And you've watched the tape, and that's kind of what they do. And they do it pretty well. But a screen and a draw is something a defensive line should be able to see 2 steps up the football field.
49ers fall to the Chiefs 28-18, 415-808-5627, 808 KNBR. We've got lines full here at the leader. Leo is in the East Bay. Leo, how you feel about this Niner loss to the Chiefs?
Well, that was a tough one, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I feel like, the 49ers just got manhandled throughout the whole game. It felt just like it wasn't just their day from the beginning. And when Ayuk went down and Debo's out, I felt like they could have got the run game going a little bit, but we got away from that. And Purdy's kind of, he's trying to stay as calm as possible, but it felt like there was no urgency in his game today in the second half. And then, of course, the defense, man, they just missed Drake Greenlaw so bad, man. They just look out of sync on all levels of the defense, man, and just didn't look good overall. But my main question is, with everything that's the NFC is looking like to be right now, you got the NFC North looking like a complete powerhouse in all 4 of those teams. Is the window closed for the 49ers right now? And, it was just hard to see us lose to these guys, man. I really wanted this one, especially to who it was. But, man, just overall, tough day for everyone.
Appreciate the call, Theo. Go ahead, John.
He brings up a really good point in that Seattle won today, and obviously the 49ers lost. The division's not very good. So could they still win this division and get into the playoffs? Kind of how we look at the NFC South almost every single year. Like, Well, somebody's got to go in there. So now they're the 4th seed, and they get a home game. They could certainly do that, but that's not the goal around here. And so he brings up a great point, which is Green Bay won today. They look good. Detroit beat Minnesota. Detroit is really good. I fear that they roll the 49ers by 40 right now. Minnesota, despite the loss today, is really good. We might start having to respect the Commanders because even though they played the Panthers, they did what you're supposed to do to a really bad team. They blew them out. So maybe the Commanders or something. I really don't. Philly won today. I don't know what Philly is, but my point is that they could win the NFC West. They probably will. They'll probably end up being whatever it is in this division, 9-8, 8-9, 10-7, something in that range. But then the goal here is win a Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl or bust down here. That's what it is. It's not NFC West champs. Woohoo! It's just like when you were playing, Dennis. It's if you don't win a Super Bowl, then we didn't have the kind of season that we wanted to have. And I can't see them competing with those kind of teams. They can't compete with Green Bay or Detroit or Minnesota or the top of the NFC right now. They can't. I mean, Patrick Mahomes went 16-27 for 154 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. If I'd have told you before the game that Travis Kelce would have 4 catches for 17 yards and Mahomes would play, those were the numbers Mahomes had. I mean, they tried to gift it to you, but you just didn't want to take it. And now you've got another injury to Ayuk and all, because what we assume is, well, we're going to get all these guys back and then we're going to be really healthy. Well, they keep playing football. So now Ayuk's out, and at some point the excuses will become the explanation. But again, Kansas City didn't have their top 2 wide receivers. They didn't have their running back. They have injured guys. They have really bad offensive tackles that I don't think the 49ers took enough advantage of. So, Aiden Hutchinson is out for the Lions. They still kicked Minnesota's ass. So, everybody has injuries, and the latest will be Brandon Ayuk, and it's not great, and some guys are going to have to step up. But back to the original caller's point, they can't compete at the top of the NFC right now. This team cannot. Can they by the end of the year? Maybe, but not right now.
And even in this division, right? I mean, you've already lost to the Rams. You lost to the Cardinals. You beat the Seahawks. Seahawks win today. But still, I mean, you get another opportunity to play the Rams and the Cardinals. But if you're playing like you're playing now, those could be L's for you too. So, there's a lot to be done on this football team and a lot you have to be fixed. And, I just look at the special teams. And the whole thing at the end of the game, missing the ball. I mean, that just speaks to the way the special teams is going. I mean, you swing and you miss on the ball.
I was like, come on, man. I was like, now this too. We got to look bad also.
That's my tee shot after a 12-pack.
That was rough.
Bro.
That's a rough day. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you after the Niners fall 28-18 to the Kansas City Chiefs, now 3-4 as they get ready for a Sunday night matchup next week with the Dallas Cowboys, who, by the way, coming off a bye. Another team you're seeing right off of a bye. So the Cowboys, after they got smoked by the Lions, come to see the Niners. But I'm with that caller. I don't know if they can compete with any of the top teams in the NFL right now. If this is a contender, the Niners certainly are not with where they stand right now. 808 KNBR, I see you guys hanging on the line. We'll get to more of your thoughts after the Niners lose to the Chiefs of the sports leader.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. it sound right, boys.
I mean, I don't really think that. All I think about is, what my job is, going through my reads, trusting in Kyle's play call, and hitting the open guy. I think there was many opportunities tonight or in this game where I could have been better, and so that's just how I feel. Is there more pressure for me to put on a Superman cape and do more? No. I think who we have and the players that we have that step up in those positions, man, they've done a great job, and we have a lot of talent in my eyes. So that's on me, and we'll just all continue to grow and fight on this journey together.
As 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy, after the Niners lose to the Chiefs 28-18 at Levi Stadium, Chiefs now 6-0 for the first time under Patrick Mahomes. The Niners fall to 3-4. Let's get you the difference maker of today's game, sponsored by Benjamin Moore Paints. Experience the Benjamin Moore retail difference at our independently owned authorized retailers today or at benjaminmoore.com. And by Abundant Life Weight Loss, call 925-594-7110 to start your journey today. It could be the 3 interceptions by Brock. I mean, they just kept giving them opportunities after, as you said, John, taking 2 away on a couple of good interceptions. A great play by Collins at the line to bat it up into the air and then fall down with it. That was in the first quarter. And then the great pick by, was it Demo who picked off the second one there?
Yeah.
He runs it right, like after the receiver falls down, he goes and he makes a great play on a ball. And the Niners capitalized one time. I mean, really in the first half, they couldn't move it at all. Some longer sustained drives in the second half, but a few of those resulting in interceptions. What'd you guys see as the biggest difference in this one?
I think what you just said. I mean, you're going to turn the ball over, and that's going to be a major problem. Now, they did a really good job. If we go in chronological, they did a really nice job of stopping that fake punt. I think everybody in the stadium knew that fake punt was going to happen by Kansas City.
Left the defense on the field.
Yeah,
thank God,
come on, man. And they still said, what the heck? Everybody does this against their special teams. We'll try. But then they turn around, and Brock throws an interception literally the next play, and so it's kind of going back and forth. And so, just those kind of situations where Kansas City's giving you the ball after their first possession at the 45-yard line. And I thought to myself, okay, this can be a changing point right there, and they didn't take advantage. Brock throws the pick, turns it right around. There were opportunities that the 49ers had. Obviously the interception by Brock in the end zone. They had opportunities to make plays, and they just didn't make them. They were in front of them, and I felt a lot like the Super Bowl a little bit in this one. They didn't play great. Believe me, they played much better in the Super Bowl. They did against Kansas City. But I saw a lot of missed opportunities out there by the 49ers, and that hurts.
Yeah, and I had to go with Patrick Mahomes. I know he didn't throw any touchdowns. Yards, he only had 150-some yards. But still, I mean, I think back, I don't know if it was the third quarter when he scrambles there. It was like 33 yards, and he jukes a linebacker. I mean,
winners, yeah.
I mean, and before that, he makes that throw to Kelsey, the third down to kind of keep that drive going. But his decision making, I mean, he's he's probably the best quarterback in the game right now. But that run, I mean, he understands that it's man coverage, and he runs down the field, and I think he does 2 ball fakes. And he fakes out 2 defenders.
He's 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, and he's doing a ball fake.
And you're going for it.
And then he stops like he's going to go out of bounds and then keeps running.
Yeah, so, I mean, just the way he plays the football game, and he understands, and we talk about the 49ers having opportunities to make plays and not doing it. On the other hand, Patrick Mahomes has opportunities to make plays, and it seems like he always makes them.
415-808-5627 is the number to call. 808-KNBR if you want to get involved in the conversation following a Niner loss. Yeah, the inability to stop that Patrick Mahomes run, the disrespect to pump that in a future Hall of Famer like Fred Warner's face, dude. I mean, that's how you know how good this guy is Fred's like slipping off of him, it felt like, all afternoon. Let's go back out to the phones here. Aiden is in Scottsdale. Been waiting a while. What's up, Aiden? You're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, it's Dana in Scottsdale.
All right. Go ahead, Dana.
Yeah. So, listen, I'm trying to stay calm here, but somebody help me understand how every time we're first and goal from the 9 or 10, we line up in a run formation, and the whole stadium knows we're going to run it up the middle, and we run it up the middle. There's no motion. There's no innovation. There's no Kyle Shanahan, the guru, the genius. We run it up the middle, and all of a sudden we're 3rd and 4, and the pass rush comes in. Like, somebody explain to me why we have no innovation inside the red zone.
No, it's a fair point. We've talked about it all
Appreciate
season
the call,
long.
Dana.
Yeah, we've talked about it all season long. And what's not funny, what's bad is Kansas City came in and they couldn't move the ball in the red zone, and yet they do today against the 49ers. But here's what it comes down to for me. If you want to be a smash-mouth team, you've got to be better on both sides of the line, and they're not. Their offensive line is not good. We can say Trent Williams is. I'm not going to go back. I don't know what Purdy did, but I know this. They couldn't move the Chiefs' defense at all in the run game, and Brock Purdy, as it always is seeming to be, is back there running for his life a lot of the time and having to try to make plays, not only with his legs, but to try to buy time in the pocket. And the offensive line's not getting it done. So if you're trying to be a smash-mouth football team and control the line of scrimmage, your offensive line isn't good enough to do that. And then the defensive line isn't either. Now, I know that Floyd and Bosa both got home today, but that was about it. Those Morris at left tackle and the holding machine that is Juwan Taylor at right tackle, those aren't good tackles. You have to take advantage of those things. It seems a lot of times with the 49ers is their weaknesses are being exposed and the opposition's weakness is not being exposed. They should have taken those tackles to task today, and it just didn't happen enough. And then the interior of the defensive line, I really like Malik Collins, but they've had some injuries in there, and Jordan Elliott is probably should be playing fewer plays, but he can't. And Kevin Givens is a really big guy. At time, you're going again. We were talking about up the middle. We knew that the Chiefs are going to run the ball up the middle. We knew that Hunt was going to get the ball a lot of times. He'll get hit and he'll still get 3 or 4 yards. The 49ers do not. And Jordan Mason is a vicious runner, but today it was, if you were stopped for 0 yards, that was it. That's what you got. If it seemed like the Chiefs got additional yardage. But the big picture thing to me is on the offensive and defensive lines, I remember the day when, man, this defensive line that was it. That was the game. The 49ers defensive line in 2019, the game is over. They rolled you. And that's what other teams are doing to the 49ers. And the offensive line's not effective. So, hey, let's play smash mouth football. Let's shut down the run. Well, you don't have the guys who are doing it on either side of the line.
No, neither side. They didn't get the push today. And by the way, 58 yards, I believe, is what J.P. Mason had. That's the most for any running back against this Chiefs defense all season long. 808 KNBR is the number to call. Larry Krueger is going to join us momentarily, give us his thoughts on how this one went down 28-18 Chiefs over the Niners. Let's go to Cal is in Santa Cruz. Cal, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey there, Copeland. I just, I was at the game today, and let me tell you, big letdown. I mean, seriously, it's hard to even put into words how to feel about this one. But one thing I'll tell you from seeing, from the bird's eye view at the stadium, the fans, we got deflated. When you're in the game and totally find your way out of it for no good reason, you get totally deflated as a fan base, and that's exactly what happened today. So that really hurt. That really hurt the team in so many ways. And I know that hurt everyone watching the game like it did me. But another thing I want to say is just it seems like the play calling was so predictable. Like, I mean, it's almost like I was sitting there playing Madden as like a 5-year-old today. That's kind of what Shanahan's play calling looked like to me. It was just like you could see it coming, the runs, the passes, whatever it may be. There's no separation from the wide receivers. And I know we're losing Ayuk now, but that might actually do us a favor because the guy looks like he doesn't even want to win when he's out there. So, I mean, I think there's just huge problems going on right now, and this is a team that had really high expectations. And not only is it hurting the fan base, but the team is obviously feeling it too, and they're losing big games.
Appreciate the call, Cal. We got to run, Cal. I appreciate the call. I mean, I hear what he's saying, and you talk about the play calling. People are going to talk about this all week as it leads up to Dallas. And I do think it's if you're going to say one thing, it's that the 49ers didn't have the top 3 receivers on their depth chart. They expected to have Deebo Samuel today, and then you lose a guy in game, that's fine. But Deebo never saw the field for the offense today at all. Ricky Pearsall, we were talking 15 to 20, 25 snaps, and he has to be a bigger part of this. I thought Jacob Cowing showed out pretty nicely in what we saw, but they were kind of playing without a couple of their legs there. And George Kittle had a nice game, but I would agree that the play calling was not, I don't think, what we would have expected. But I also think that maybe Deebo Samuel is probably a bigger part of this game plan. We can talk about all that with Larry Krueger, who's going to join us next, give us his thoughts on how he saw this one go down. Bad loss for the Niners. They still are having a tough time competing with some of the quality teams across the NFL. Larry Krueger joins us next on the Sports Leader. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. Larry Krueger's going to join us momentarily from Levi Stadium to give us his thoughts on what he saw in the Niners' 28-18 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's get you the Protecting the Quarterback segment here, sponsored by the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. Protect your community and apply for your new career in law enforcement at cocosheriff.org today, and by Planet Orange, effective, eco-friendly pest control. Dennis, you were just saying it in the last segment. You could regurgitate almost everything you had just said about Brock Purdy running around in the backfield, not being protected by the offensive line. And while there are some plays, they did have one nice play where they ran a little boot and he ran to the outside, like Alex Smith-like almost, up to the left side and picked up a few yards and a first down. Other than that, it seemed to me that the reason he was running was because he didn't have any other option.
Yeah, and, receivers not getting separation, getting open. But it just feels like the last 3-4 games that he's really, really running around in the pocket trying to, just trying to get away from defenders. I mean, the Chiefs have a good defensive front, and they kind of got after it. But this offensive line, it's just one of those issues, one of those areas that, on this team that needs to be worked out and figured out what's going to happen with him, because he's going to take that one shot, and then where's your season going to be at? So he's running around a lot. He does a good job. He's proven that he can be a mobile type quarterback, get out some stuff and make some yards, but that's not what you want. I want to go back to the Brock Purdy those timing. Remember those timings like 2 years ago where
ball got out of his hands, boom.
Yeah, 3 steps, boom, the ball is out. So again, that's the offensive line. And, if he trusts his offensive line to protect him.
Yeah. The 49ers lose this one today to the Kansas City Chiefs. What else is new? Larry Krueger's getting set up to join us, get his thoughts on this 49ers loss here at Levi Stadium. It leaves them 3-4. They got the Cowboys next week, and then they have a bye. So hopefully they can get things right and go into the bye with a positive situation. But right now, 3-4. Seattle did win in Atlanta today, so Seattle is back in first in the NFC West. Hi, Krug.
Hello.
How are you?
Wow, that was a very depressing group of interviews there with Bosa and
you were just
Purdy and Kittle, and I just was just in there. It's just, what can you say? It's a good football team. It's a really good football team, and you can't turn it over 3 times and beat a really good football team. I think that, we talked about it a lot during the week. I said if they could be even on the turnovers, I think they got a good chance. If they could be +1, I think they got a great chance. Instead, they were -1. And -1 against Patrick Mahomes it's hard to overcome. And then, losing, it sounds like you lose Ayuk possibly for the year.
Looks like it.
Torn ACL. And very interesting ACL injury, because it looked like it was on a hard hit to the knee, but it didn't look like it bent in any weird direction. But obviously, that's the report, and they did like a hand test, and they felt like that it could be wrong, but they'll have an MRI and confirm it. But at the end there, and Kittle said, hey, at one point I'm looking around the huddle, and no offense to these guys, but there's Conley and there's Ronnie Bell and there's Pearsall and there's where's JJ and where's CMC and where's Debo and where's suddenly you look around and you're like, whoa, we had this incredible group of playmakers and none of them are there. But not an excuse, just a reality, and they're going to have to regroup, because to me, the loss today makes next week just got to have it. I mean, you can't go 3-5 into the bye and really say, we're a playoff team. I mean, they're already kind of set for, if they can get to the playoffs, an entire run through the NFC, which would almost predominantly have to be on the road. But this team can do that. I don't think that's too daunting. It's just the vibe around the team's been odd this year, starting with Trent Williams and Ayuk's holdouts. And there's just something missing. There's something missing in all 3 phases of the game. And I think we saw it today.
Yeah, and you talk about all 3 phases. Just explain to me why the special teams each week, special teams shows up, and I never played special teams, so I don't get it. But the special team every week seems like there's something going on with the special teams, or they're missing blocks, or they're giving away a big run, or a block punt. I mean, it just seems like every week special teams falls.
I actually kind of think it's one problem that we're seeing on special teams and defense. The Niners are not tackling in space very well. And is it because they don't have enough linebackers, or are they not fresh enough, or do they not work on tackling or breaking down well? But I think the combination of they're missing a lot of tackles on defense. 42 coming into today in the last 3 games. I don't know what today's was. We'll find out, I guess, tomorrow. But that they're missing tackles on defense, but they're missing tackles on special teams. And then they don't have a kicker that can consistently kick it through the back of the end zone. So now you're getting returns. Teams want to return it on them, and it's a play that hardly ever you have any real reps doing, because it's a relatively new play and everybody else is kicking it through the back of the end zone. So it's that much worse. It's like when everybody else is kicking it through the back of the end zone, you got to have a kicker that also does that. Otherwise, you're going to potentially have some really ugly returns, and we've already seen it.
Yeah, taking a big picture look at this team, and it's really bad that Ayuk is out, and it's cool that Purcell is back, but he's not ready to assume that kind of a role. And Debo will be back, and hopefully McCaffrey will be back, and Trey Greenlaw will be back. So they'll get some guys back. All is not lost. This is not a great division.
Right.
Seattle beat Atlanta today, but they're going to be in it, and they'll probably win the division, but they're going to win the division like a team from the NFC South wins the division. Like, oh, you're the 4th seed. Now, you do get a home game, but the point of this team is to win Super Bowls. This is a Super Bowl or bust team that is getting older and more expensive, and we all know that one of these days it really is going to be the last dance, and they're coming up on it. So winning the division for a lot of teams is great, and a lot of fan bases is great, but they think Super Bowl or bust. And right now, as I look at the NFC and I look at – and hey, we're 7 weeks in, so a lot can change. But Minnesota and Detroit today, that's top of the division. Green Bay won today against the Texans. They needed a last-second field goal. That's a top NFC team. There's a number of teams. Hell, maybe Washington is something. They went out. They blew out Carolina, which isn't a good team, but that's what you're supposed to do against Carolina. So, there's a lot of teams in the NFC that are much better. Even if they get healthy, which we assume they always are, you're playing football and you're going to have more injuries. I was thinking to myself as I was coming down to do this, maybe they're just not very good. Because to me, the offensive and defensive lines leave a lot to be desired. And the way this team wants to play football is we want to punch in the mouth and run the football, and we want to play great defense. And, I'm watching Hunt get stopped at the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden he's got 4 yards because of, like you said, the missed tackles. Offensively, okay, even if you put all those guys but McCaffrey in, they haven't been great a lot of times. Debo's had one good game. That was in Minnesota. Ayuk had one good game against Arizona. The offensive line outside of Trent Williams is far below average. They don't move people off the ball, and special teams is atrocious. Now, again, we're 7 weeks in and things can change, but that's where this team is. They, everybody, they should have beat Arizona. They should beat the Rams. They didn't. They're 3-4, and they could lose to Dallas, who isn't great, but they could. They're just not a very good team right now.
Yeah, well, and it's like, I hate to say this, but, guys get old in this game fast, and it happens. And it's like, you look at Debo coming into today, he didn't play today. He had two broken tackles. He broke 2 tackles all year. So, and then Ayuk has not looked anything like the peak Ayuk that we saw last year coming out of training camp. He is not anywhere close to that level. And everybody else is a year older, and CMC is yet to play a single down. So, okay, look at a couple positives from this game. I would say, instead of just harping on the negatives, because there are a lot of negatives, but they are running the ball at times really well. They don't run it seemingly on the goal line well, but man, they averaged over 4 yards, 4.2 a carry. Mason had a 28-yard run. They're getting some good things in the run game, and I feel like they've really found a real player in Malik Mustafa, who had 12 tackles today, 8 solo, 2 or 3 woo hits. Like, you're like, woo, look at that. So those are the positives, but next week is absolutely crucial. They can't go 3-5 into the bye. I kind of looked at this 2-week stretch with Kansas City and Dallas as like, this is go time. They're either going to go and win these games and take off from there, or they're going to lose these games. And you know what? If they wind up losing next week to Dallas, it might be time to talk about moving on from Mooney Ward and moving on from Debo Samuel and moving on from some of these guys for draft pick compensation. And I think the 49ers are going to look at it that way as well, because they're going to look at Brock Purdy's soon to be contract and say, we're going to cut most of these guys anyway for cap purposes. So if we can get a pick for Mooney and a pick for Debo and a pick for this guy and a pick for that guy, Josh Dobbs and probably a couple other guys, Ambry Thomas, if they could find 4 or 5 guys that they could find a pick for, if they lose next week, I'm just saying, if they lose next week to Dallas, which I don't expect them to, they'll be 3-5 going to the break, and they're probably sellers at the deadline.
And out of the break, it's at Tampa. You're going across the country.
Great offense.
Seattle again, at Green Bay, at Buffalo. So, I mean, there's some tough games left on the schedule. You already lost to the Rams. Rams in Chicago, even though Chicago's 4-2. But then December 30th, there's that game against Detroit. They're not even in the same stratosphere right now as Detroit. Detroit beat Minnesota today, and they looked really good.
Yeah. And they don't have Aiden Hutchinson, and who knows who they'll have or won't have by then. But yeah, Detroit looks like a very complete football team, even without Aiden Hutchinson. I would say don't sleep on Green Bay. I mean, that was a great win that they got today. That's a very good Houston Texans team that they beat.
All right, so you'll be on 49ers Nightly, right?
49er Nightly starting tomorrow night, and tomorrow night we'll take phone calls. We won't book any guests, and later in the week we'll have some guests. JD's going to stop by. Jordan Elliott, I think, does a nice job for NBC Sports Bay Area. He's going to be by. We'll visit with some people from Dallas as well, maybe one of the announcers for the Cowboys. So we'll bring you a lot of Niners Cowboys throughout the week. Keep it locked on the Sports Leader at 6 o'clock.
And the Krug Show. Make sure
and the Krug Show, I'll go head upstairs right now. I'll do a little live stream and commiserate more with people who are frustrated that the Niners lost this game. I mean, it's a
busy
tough
man,
night.
busy man.
You're the man. I love it. I sit next to Krug during the entire game, so we always commiserate and have a good time. By the way, the chicken strips today were outstanding.
They were al dente.
Yeah.
Al dente.
Like a golden brown.
The perfect.
Whoever the chef was.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
chicken strips.
Time,
I mean, they weren't like the old candlestick
man.
ones where it's like, you could. They looked like they were
rubbery.
They were beef jerky.
Well, they used to
because
be
what they
kinda,
would do is they would cook them, and it's like they didn't get eaten, and it was like back in the freezer and back into the fryer. Repurpose, and
they
then
were
all
a
of a
little
sudden,
dry. They were a
beef
little
jerky.
dry, but
Yeah,
not
beef
today.
jerky.
Today,
outstanding golden color.
the Niners may not have had it today, but man, the
Yep.
chicken strips were
They were on it.
juicy.
That was
They were
worth it.
juicy.
It was worth it. All right, check out Krug. He's going to be jumping on, and of course, Niners Nightly every night. So make sure that you check it out. The Niners lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll continue to talk about it. Dennis Brown, John Lund, Adam Copeland jumps in next, only here on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, right now I'm not feeling like much urgency, as you would say. It's more of, just making sure that I reach out to my guy. That's still my brother at the end of the day. For me, it's much bigger than football. He's going through something right now, and I'm making sure I show that my love for him and sending prayers his way and checking on that guy because, he's a really good buddy of mine. So, but, in this game, he went down, and I had to, play more than expected, than really everybody expected. But, I just try to make the most of my opportunities.
As Ricky Pearsall, rookie wide receiver, made his debut today for the 49ers, talking about the injury to Brandon Ayuk, a guy that he knows well. Ricky Pearsall had his first catch, a 6-yard reception on the same drive that Jacob Cowing picked up his first catch. It was the final drive of the first half. And speaking of the Ayuk injury, let's get to the injury report sponsored by Habas Law. They'll fight to make it right. Visit HabasLaw.com and by Mike Council Plumbing. When you need plumbing, think green and go with Mike Council Plumbing online at mcplumbing.com. The injury to Ayuk, it didn't look good. He did walk off, but he went straight into the blue tent, which I thought was odd because it was before the end of the half. I thought, why not just go back to the locker room anyway and figure this thing out? But Kyle Shanahan said after the game it's feared to be an ACL injury, and I guess we'll get more details after they do the actual screening. But they just did the field test or whatever it is they do. And this is again another major loss just because it's another key player. But they had to rely on a couple of rookie receivers today who did an okay job considering the circumstances. But it was going to be a tall task once Ayuk goes out and once you don't have Deebo Samuel for the entirety of the game.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder. I mean, what was your grade today on a Ricky with his first ever, I think, NFL football game today? I mean, he had a couple catches. I mean, what was your vibe on him today? And how does he play? Does he play more? I mean, do you see more targets next against Dallas with him, since he kind of becomes a number one receiver now, doesn't he?
Well, Juwan Jennings, you got to hope is okay too. I mean, he's the other one that missed this week, and you don't have Juwan, and he's the one who filled in. I mean, we were making the case early in the season after that 3-touchdown game. Was that against Minnesota? He had that huge performance when they didn't have Deebo Samuel in that game, and I mean, he was the guy. We made the case that he may be the best receiver in terms of quality receiver on the team, in terms of route running, and a guy who can get open and give you other size options down near the goal line. At one point, he may still be. Is he still the only receiver to have a touchdown reception? No, Deebo had the 70-yarder a couple of weeks ago. But bottom line is you got to get healthy in terms of Juwan Jennings. The hope is he's going to be able to go. But, yeah, I would imagine if Brandon Ayuk's not there, Ricky Pearsall is going to be asked to do a little bit more.
Yeah, and he even said he played more than he thought. We were talking about maybe 15 to 20 snaps. He obviously played a lot after that, 5 targets, 3 catches, 21 yards. I watched Pearsall quite a bit during the entire game just to kind of get a feel, and he made a couple of routes where you go, whoa, that's the guy that we were seeing, including an out route that was awesome. But a lot of times too, and again, this is why he said don't expect too much of him too soon. He wasn't even in training camp and gets shot, and that was August 31st, so it hasn't been that long. But at times too, in watching him, he looked like he was running in mud. So it's just going to take him a little bit of time. And look, Jacob Cowing on the 41-yarder that he had, that's a touchdown if Brock puts it out in front of him. But one of the reasons why he didn't is because they haven't worked probably a ton together. They don't have their timing, and you're going to try to do that during the season, and it's going to be really difficult. But guys have to do it. Cowing's a drafted guy. Pearsall was a first-round pick. These guys are going to have to learn quick. I don't have a lot of hope for Bronny Bell. He just hasn't been very good and had another drop today. But Chris Conley's a veteran. I know he's more of a special teams guy, but Brandon Ayuk is not coming back this year. So figure out guys who are going to have to step up, and it starts with Ricky Pearsall as a first-round pick, but getting Jennings back is going to be huge. And then Deebo's got to figure it out. I don't know if Deebo is hurt, much like a running back, because he's gotten beaten up and all these times, but he is just not the same guy. As Krug said, he's had 2 broken tackles all year. He, coming into this game, was the second worst wide receiver in the NFL against man coverage, so he's not getting off man coverage. They've got to figure out a way to get Deebo going, because now without Brandon Ayuk in the fold, he's supposedly their best weapon until McCaffrey gets back. I know Jennings is good, but again, for everything Jennings is, he's not a great athlete. He runs a 4.72. He's got a 29-inch vertical. That's why he was only drafted in the 7th round. We've seen this all the time with guys. If you're a great number 3 or a great number 2, when you have to be a number 1, then your holes start to be exposed. You see that in every sport. Juwan Jennings is not a number 1 receiver in the league. He can be really good as a complementary receiver, but now somebody's got to step up and be the number 1 guy, and I don't know who that is right now.
It's going to have to be Deebo Samuel, 808 KNBR, or Juwan Jennings, 415-808-5627. Niners fall to the Chiefs. They lose 28-18, and seemingly they've lost Brandon Ayuk for the remainder of the season. Kyle Shanahan says they fear an ACL injury. He left the game at the end of the first half. Let's go to Joe and Clayton. Joe, you've been waiting for a while. You're on the Sports Leader.
Thank you, gentlemen. Certainly everything you've mentioned tonight resonates. It was a tough loss, very challenging. However, I don't think we get the Chicken Little syndrome on this. Pardon the chicken pun from before. Tons of talent on this team. We were in the Super Bowl last year. I simply love Brock Purdy. I mean, there's been a lot of pressure on him back in the pocket, a lot of hit the arm, deflected throws and what have you. But the reality is we're facing adversity. That builds character. We win with Dallas, get a bye week, kind of heal up a bit. With foresight, I'm more concerned about how to indoctrinate McCaffrey. I mean, he's an incredibly gifted kid. I would probably move him, to Debo's spot, kind of like an H-back, fiddle around the backfield, an Edelman, if you will. I think it's time. An Achilles injury is quite substantive, and to prolong his career, we got to start thinking outside the box, but we can't get the Chicken Little syndrome here. These guys are great character guys. I look at guys like Warner. What a warrior. I mean, Bosa, the list goes on, all those guys. And, early on there was that pass to Ayuk in the end zone, and holding out. I just felt our calibration's off, and that's been the case. When we get this thing recalibrated, we're going to be fine. If we can get into the playoffs, Brock's starting to mature and he's young. And I remember Joe in 79 and 80, just a skinny kid. We were patient. I think if we can get over this big, massive hill, we may see 2, 3, 4 Super Bowls down the line. But I mean that with an earnest, affable, just humble spirit that we can't. That's the great part about being fans and being witnessing team. They've got to figure it out. It's beyond the football field. It's many other things that sort of, process through, but yeah. I think we're going to be fine, bottom line. What do you think?
Appreciate the call, Joe. I don't know that they're going to be fine. They're losing tons of more players. They're not correcting things that have been problematic all season long. They've done nothing to show that they can compete with the best of the best. I mean, this right now, this team is the defending Super Bowl champions. It looked a whole lot different than the team the 49ers saw in February, and you can't talk too much about the injuries. They lost Juju Smith-Schuster at the very beginning of this game. He'd been questionable all week long. They don't have their starting running back. They lose one of their cornerbacks in this game. They weren't healthy coming into this one. I mean, this is a team that has no love lost for anybody who's lost any of their talent or their players, but to the point that it's not all, I mean, the sky is not falling yet, but they've done nothing to prove that they're a competitive playoff-like team. The road for the 49ers as it stands now to the playoffs is still through the NFC West as division champions, right? That's going to have to be the way it goes down. I don't know that they can get in as a wild card if they continue to lose games at the rate they are. And the schedule, you guys pointed out, gets much more difficult. At Tampa, Seattle comes here, then you go at Green Bay, at the Bills, play the Bears, who haven't been awful this year. Another one with the Rams. You get the Lions, who right now are probably the best team in the NFC. I mean, there's not a lot of soft spots on this schedule. So 808 KNBR, we'll get to more of your thoughts and your calls on this one as the Niners fall in an ugly one. They got to get it together if they want to make a postseason run. 2019, 3-5. They finished 10-7. 2021, 3-5. Finished 10-7 and went to the NFC Championship. So there is still a road. We'll get to the postgame interview when we come on back only here on the Sports Leader. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you following a Niner loss. They fall to 3-4 after a 28-18 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch of Super Bowl 58. Kyle Shanahan now 0-5 in his career against Andy Reid and these Kansas City Chiefs as a head coach in the NFL and as the head coach of the 49ers. A frustrating one today, and he said, can't sugarcoat this one. We got our asses kicked, and you're going to hear it as part of our postgame interview sponsored by the Hanley Union Square Hotel, San Francisco's oldest family-owned hotel. Here's the Niner head coach following the loss, Kyle Shanahan.
All right, guys. Injuries from the game. Debo had an illness today. Tried to go, couldn't do it. Never returned. And Brandon Ayuk had a knee. We're worried it's an ACL. Not confirmed yet, but we'll find out for sure tomorrow. Go ahead.
Obviously, there's been injuries this season, but does it begin to, in your mind, does it accumulate emotionally, taking all these injuries?
Yeah, I mean, it always does for anyone associated with NFL. I know a lot of teams deal with that. Not every team, but we're dealing with it hard right now, and it got worse yesterday, so it's tough. Got worse today.
What do you think? I mean, obviously, Brock's dealing with inexperienced receivers, Ricky Pearsall's first game. I think 3 interceptions. How did you think Brock dealt with all that?
I mean, we didn't do anything really good on offense. You know, I know he'd love to have all 3 of those picks back, so Brock's been playing unbelievable this year. Done some good things in offense this year, but today wasn't that day.
That second interception, was that a miscommunication, or did Brock just miss the throw?
No, he just missed the throw.
Obviously not the result you guys wanted, but kind of excluding the performance just for Ricky Pearsall to make it back onto an NFL field today, what did that mean for you as his coach and for him?
I mean, we kind of celebrated that almost all week with him because it was great to have him back, and he looked great in practice, and he was going to get eased in a little today. It changed a little bit with Debo going out, then it changed a bunch with Ayuk going out, so he had to do more than we expected today, and I was proud of him for handling it. Great to have him back.
Did Debo get the sickness this morning? Like, did he just
Yeah, this morning. Yeah. Throat, stomach things, just real fatigued, struggled to breathe, couldn't catch his breath, and so he kept trying to fight through it, but once he was struggling with the breathing and everything, that we had to shut him down.
You seem to struggle to beat man-to-man coverage in this game. Are there things you can do as a play caller, play designer to help scheme people open against those particular looks? Yeah, that's all we try to do. Thought a couple guys did pretty good on man. Thought we got a good curl pump. Their Jake at the end. I thought BA had a real good one that we just didn't go to. Had one of the picks on it. Ronnie did on the other pick. So there was definitely times guys beat man, and sometimes they didn't.
Looking at the defensive performance, Kyle, what did you see in terms of how Mahomes was able to torment them again?
I thought the defense today, compared to everything else, gave us a chance. I thought they settled them down, but 4 or 5 in the red zone was the biggest thing. I mean, they scored pretty much every time they got down there. Mahomes, just keeping plays alive with his legs. That 30 scramble that he did, and then extending it by the sidelines, which we see over and over, and everyone thinks they're ready for it, but then he gets another team again with it. So, hats off to him. He's an unbelievable player. But we didn't play good as a team today.
Tough loss, and you have one more game before the bye week. What was the message that you delivered to the team? What do you want them to take away from today? I
want them to say less today. There's no way to sugarcoat that. We got our ass kicked today. Lots of reasons for it, but those are things that they don't need to sit and think about today. We'll address all those tomorrow. We'll get together. We'll go through the truth of the whole tape, and be hard on each other and find a way to put it to bed so we can come out here and make sure we put our best foot forward and find a way to get a win versus Dallas.
That's 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan. They're following the 28-18 loss. We have more to come. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund following that loss. Niners now 3-4. They got one left against Dallas on Sunday night at Levi Stadium at 5:20. And we'll have it for you right here on the Sports Leader. But final game and an opportunity to go into the bye at 4-4, which I guess is palatable. But after a loss like this, again, this isn't really one you flush. This is one you got to try to figure out, as Kyle said, how to put it to bed and get right for Dallas. I see you guys hanging on the lines. Rocky, Mike, Roy, Mike. There's like 4 mics hanging on the line. We'll get to all those calls and more on the Niner loss. 28-18 to the Chiefs on the Sports Leader.
Bosa's not usually wrong. I'll say that when the score is 14-6 at halftime, I think our defense is playing at a really high level against an amazing quarterback and a really good offense. And we went like 3 and out the first couple drives where we didn't have a first down for what felt like the entire first half. Like, you can't play like that if you want to beat a team that knows how to win. They win gritty games, and it wasn't the prettiest game for them. Patrick had a couple turnovers himself, but they win those gritty games. And when we just continually, have turnovers, don't get first downs, don't run the ball, explosive like the way that we usually do it, it's really hard to beat good teams.
There's George Kittle as the 49ers lose to the Chiefs at Levi's Stadium. We go to 3-4. Seattle wins in Atlanta, so they lead the NFC West now. George Kittle, our player of the game, 6 catches, 92 yards, including that 41-yarder on 7 targets. Player of the game, sponsored by good friends at Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly. Who doesn't love tea? I love it. It's great.
I'm not a biggest, tea bags.
Not tea guy?
Not my thing.
Not your thing? Not?
Thank you.
I knew.
Thanks, Dennis.
I knew we could get Coach. I knew we could get him. I got to watch. If we say this, that'll be it for him. Grab a tea. That is our good friends at Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly. George Kittle. Not a lot of great stuff, but George Kittle was good today. 6 for 92. You could say Debo Lenore had that nice pick. He was very good today. And just to get Ricky Pearsall back on the field, that was good. 28-18, the 49ers lose. Go ahead, Copes. We got some people who want to talk about it. Any mics? Is there a mic in the house?
Dude, I took a picture and I sent it to Tim. I wasn't joking because I just looked over to T's.
We're going to go to Mike and Mike and Mike.
I'm so glad you heard that because I looked over and you guys know this. Like, we get the call screen log here, and so there's like 8 or 9 names up there, right? And you just go over and there's some people who've been waiting for a while, and so I wanted to let them know we are going to get to you. We'll take your calls, I swear, because you've been hanging on the line. But I just started rattling off the names, and there was like 4 of them that were Mike. I sent the picture to Tim. I was like Rocky and Mike and Roy and Mike and Mike.
What's funny about that is, so you'd be like, okay, Mike, and then the other Mike that's not the Mike you put on the air is probably talking right now. Like, what the hell? Can't they hear me?
Yeah,
not you, Mike.
Certainly, it's going to be funny because we're not going to go to either of them for right now. We're going to go to Rocky. Rocky's been waiting the longest time in Vallejo. Rocky, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, what's up, guys? Great show. Very therapeutic for me, especially after a loss on a big game like that. But I do have a little different take than you guys. You guys are ripping on the offensive line. They had a bad first half, no doubt, especially when the backup tight end and Aaron Banks missed that double team block on the defensive end. That was horrible. That was in the first half. In the second half, I thought they played much better. If you notice, Jason Mason ran harder, and they got some good runs in the second half. And Brock had time. Brock really lost this game. That last interception was horrible. They could have got a field goal. It would have been 21-15. The defense obviously would have kept playing hard because when the game gets out of hand, the first thing it's hard for the defender to keep putting their foot to the pedal, and Dennis Brown could tell you that. But the bottom line is Brock looked nervous. He had a horrible game. Sure, the offensive line did not have a great performance in the first half, but they've had worse performances. This offensive line is not the worst in the league, the way you guys are making it sound out to be. This offensive line is average. It's a middle-of-the-pack offensive line. We know that. We got Trent Williams, Hall of Famer. Everyone else is, about average. Brendel might be a little bit below average, but everyone else is about average. Brock did not play well. If Brock played, and guess what? Number 15 on the other side didn't play well either. But guess what? He played better than Brock, a lot better than Brock. And that's why we lost the game, other than the special teams with Harmon getting that punt return. So to be honest with you, I put this blame 100% on Brock. And I'd love to take your comments off the air.
Appreciate the call, Rocky. Thanks for hanging on the line for so long, too. I said it at the top of the show. This is the worst game Brock's played since Christmas Day last year against the Baltimore Ravens. Like, he didn't play well, I thought, against Minnesota, but well enough to win. And the Niners, I don't think that score is indicative of how that game went. That game was a little further apart, and the Niners kind of made a run at the end of that game. But they're just not competing with quality teams. You heard that cut we played from George Kittle coming in, where he says it's hard to beat good teams. And the Niners now, your record is what you are what your record says you are. And they really are a middling team right now, in that they're having trouble closing out mediocre teams that aren't playing quality football. They're beating bad teams, sure, like the New England Patriots, but everybody should be beating those teams. The Jets were out of whack when they beat them, and that was as sharp as the Niners have looked all season, was opening night. And even then, 6 field goals they weren't finishing in the red zone. So yeah, this is on Brock Purdy, but I think it's on a lot today. I think it's on missing some players. It's on not executing. It's on the separation that they're not getting when it comes to receivers. And when you're missing your top 3 receivers on the roster, it's going to be tough anyway. But to the caller's point, this is a lot on Brock's shoulders. He didn't execute today.
Yeah, and I'm interested to know the caller says that it's not the offensive line, but yet you say Brock looks nervous. Quarterbacks get nervous when they don't trust their
they're not
offensive
protected,
line.
right? Yeah.
So, the offensive line is not the worst in the National Football League, but when you have a Kyle Shanahan offense, the offensive line is super important because that play action's important. The run game's really important. So, Trent Williams is, yes, a Hall of Famer. Other guys just have to step up. McKivitz has to step up. Brendel has to step up. And that's just the way football kind of works. It's won and lost in the trenches. And I just think this offensive line in the trenches in a lot of football games have not won. They have not kind of controlled the line of scrimmage and shut people down. So, we can put it on Brock, not being a little nervous, but, throwing those interceptions and scoring positions. But, again, your offensive line has to give protection to you.
Yeah, as a big picture item, they're just not moving people. And this team wants to run the ball. As far as Brock Purdy, combine these 2 quarterbacks, had 0 touchdowns and 5 interceptions today. Neither of them played well. But what Mahomes did, certain third downs, he made plays. He scrambled down the sideline for 33. You see this all the time in basketball. You can make the correlation. Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or whoever could go 4 for 19 from the field. But if 2 of those 4 shots were shots in the fourth quarter that helped them win the game, that's what matters. And that's what Mahomes did, and that's not what Purdy did. Purdy's first interception was a throw to Kittle between 2 defenders. He was bracketed. There was no way that he was going to make that play, and yet Brock threw it. That's on Brock. The touchdown the interception at the end in the end zone, his arm was hit, but still, there's 2. He was going to Chris Conley. Conley is bracketed on either side. Those are bad decisions, and we don't normally see that from Brock. So, yeah, Brock wasn't good. The offensive line didn't move guys enough. They had to become one-dimensional. Special teams, this is a team effort. Kyle Shanahan flat out said, we got our ass kicked. It's hard to look at this game, and usually with the 49ers, it's easy. Who played well today? Well, I think George Kittle played well today, and I think Demo Lenore played well today. You'd have to stretch to say that anybody else did. That's a couple of players on a 49ers team where you can probably week in and week out pick out 10. They didn't get a lot of good performances today across the board.
That's well said, John. We're going to get to a couple more callers here. John Dickinson, super reporter, boots on the ground, is there at Levi Stadium, and he's going to get us his thoughts on what he saw and what he heard in the locker room and from Kyle Shanahan after the game. We got to go a little bit quicker with these calls. Mike is in Brentwood. Mike, number 1, you're on the Sports Leader. Rapid fire, Mike. What do you got?
Yeah, real quick, guys. Me and my guys that sit in Section 201, today out of all the offensive plays that the 49ers called, we called 85% of them what they would be either a run, in what direction, and pass. And let me give you 2 quick examples. Lenore gets the pick, crowds into the game, big time. Usually teams that are aggressive and go for somebody's neck takes a shot in the end zone on first down. What do? Shuffle motion with use check, so you know what that's going to be. Pitch to a Mason, nothing. Next one, inside handoff, nothing. Then, okay, on the other side, we go down. We get a big play by Cowling. If Brock doesn't underthrow that ball, it's a TD, but that's the way it is. It didn't. What do? Left pitch, Mason, right into the line, nothing. Left pitch, right in second down, same play. Now it's third down. Now they know they got to throw the ball. They just sat there and they squeezed off the end zone. What does Brock do? He throws a pitch. The offense is so damn predictable. If knucklehead sitting in Section 201 can call 85% of the plays, what the hell is Steve Spagnuolo doing?
Appreciate the call, Mike. Good call there, Rackham. Good call there for Mike. We got to go again. Mike in San Jose. Mike number 2. Can you bring the heat like Mike 1? You're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
What's up, dude?
Thanks for taking my call. This was a winnable game, but the team, to me, they didn't look prepared, especially in that first quarter. And I got to admit myself, Purdy, sometimes he looks really good, but other times he looks ordinary. He looked out of sorts. Even on that first drive, how could he not see that defender? He threw it right to him. And then the end zone, that speaks for itself, but it's like, he at times he looks really good, but at other times he looks ordinary. And to be a top quarterback in the NFL, You have to be able to put the team on your shoulders and win maybe 3 or 4 games by yourself each year.
Appreciate the call, Mike. I don't know exactly that's what we're asking Brock Purdy to do. I mean, nobody does that. Patrick Mahomes today threw for 54 yards, and they ran for 180 plus, and did so on like 4-7 a carry. So they ran the hell out of the ball. They played great defense. Nobody's getting it done by themselves. It's about how you get it done in big moments. If Brock throws those 3 picks and then has an opportunity at the end of the game and marches him down to win, it goes a little bit different. The difference is that he threw a pick in the end zone. I mean, he didn't execute when he had to. We got to take a quick break. We'll get to John Dickinson, our super reporter from KNBR. He's going to join us, tell us what he saw from the Niners' loss. They fall to 3-4 after a 28-18 loss to the Chiefs on the Sports Leader.
Purdy get a canner alert at the line. Oscar, let's see what they're doing here. Purdy off the left side. Purdy plunge. Touchdown! San Francisco!
The Purdy plunge. There you go. Brock Purdy, a couple of rushing touchdowns today. We'll make that the drive of the game, sponsored by El Cerrito Honda. More than just a car dealership. We're family. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lem with you. Niners fall to the Chiefs 28-18 in Week 7, and they will have to right the ship here before the Dallas Cowboys come to town for Sunday Night Football next week. John Dickinson, JD, our super reporter, is live with the boys from Levi Stadium. JD, what'd you see in this one, man?
Yeah, I mean, tough loss. Sorry, Copes. Didn't hear you there for a second. But yeah, tough loss and an empty, solemn locker room post game, I think, is the biggest takeaway. And they're trying to figure out the fact that their season, 3-4 and in a little bit of trouble, but then also trying to move on from the fact that the Chiefs got them again and trying not to, I think, at this point, let that get in their head. Forget about if they play again or down the line or whatever happens, but I think they're trying to quickly flush that part of it to be able to get back to focusing on the Cowboys and what's at hand, which is the fact that their season right now at 3-4 starting to get away from them again. Like they got a virtual must win next week and a whole lot of games coming up that they're going to have to win if they're going to even be a playoff team, let alone a team that turns itself back into a Super Bowl contender.
In coming off last week, I mean, you beat Seattle, you would think they just in every aspect, and I want to give Kansas City credit, but you look at the numbers and you think to yourself, now both quarterbacks have terrible numbers at the end of this whole thing, but I mean, if I'd have said to you before the game, Mahomes goes 16 of 27, 154 and 2 interceptions for a 44.4 rating. We talked all week about containing Travis Kelce, 4 catches for 17 yards. Their number one, their wide receiver with the most yards was Worthy with 19 receiving yards. That was their top receiver. Kelce has 17. They have no passing game to speak of. They get a decent running game. There's no doubt about it. And they end up with 184. So that's surprising for this defense. You stop a fake punt early in the game against them. You know that Andy Reid's going to try something like that. You didn't play a good first half. You're only down 14-6. Yet this was just a listless performance. Brock wasn't good. I don't think either side of the line was good. They tackled poorly. Special teams makes a mistake. I mean, I'm really shocked. And I know that the Chiefs had a full bye, but you had 10 days to get ready. I thought this was going to be energy like the Philly game last year. Like, we owe these guys 2 Super Bowls. We're going to come out and really rip at it. And yet this was the performance that they gave to, that they put in today. And to me, it's fairly shocking.
Yeah. I mean, the offense just wasn't there all afternoon long. And, I thought the big play in the first half was the Brandon Ayuk drop. Yeah. I think that's when the 49ers...
I don't know if the sun was in his eyes there or what, and I'm not trying to make an excuse.
No.
I mean, if they connect on that one, that's probably a touchdown.
It's probably a touchdown, and that comes at a point where, the 49ers really would have had an opportunity to establish themselves in the game. This felt in a lot of ways like it was almost the opposite game, right? It's the Chiefs came out, were more buttoned up. The Niners were hanging around to a point where it felt like, wow, they're only 1 score down here at halftime. They make it 14-12, early after they pick off Mahomes again there and then force the Chiefs to punt. So they've got the ball. And then, it ends up in an interception on that ball that Bell stopped and Purdy threw it. And Purdy said after the game it was on him. And we all thought, hey, Ronnie Bell ran the wrong route. But the miscommunication on that one, Purdy said, nope, that was my fault.
Well, yeah, that's what a good quarterback does, right? I mean, you got to throw your receiver under the. It clearly looked like, it was the wrong route. But good by Purdy. But here's my thing. I mean, 49ers have been known for their defense, right? And that's what's always kind of carried this team. Defense has always set the tone. It just seems like on the defense side of the ball, it's the basic tackling. Just not being able to tackle ball carries. And you watch today, Hurts was falling forward. I mean, it looks like he's kind of wrapped up. Then, 4 yards later, he's down the field. So it just feels like, I mean, I don't know if in your eyes, it seems like they're just not tackling. That's the basic as far as defense goes, is being able to get ball carries or receivers to the ground.
Yeah, it's just, they are shoddier in every way, I think. I think they're less talented, but I think maybe in some areas they're a little bit older. I think some areas they get schemed up, and I think in other areas the fundamentals, they're just not quite as good as we've seen them be, and they also aren't as equipped to make up for it as they used to be. Again,
we always talk about the depth. I mean, we got cornerbacks, the defensive line. But I don't know if it's as strong as we kind of put it out there to be, especially the defensive line.
Well, the defensive line depth is non-existent, especially on the interior. Like, they do not have it, and especially after a couple of guys go down. I mean, teams that have wanted to really run it on them, for the most part, have been able to. And even games where statistically it's not a huge number, but can you pick up what you need to pick up in a key situation to get a first down? I mean, and then the Chiefs were doing that in the passing game. Again, not a great – I thought the Chiefs – this is probably a C minus game. Right. from the Chiefs, but they know how to win. Like they know how to make enough plays here and there. Both teams are turning it over. Both teams are making it on D. I think the 49ers offense really hurt them by not being locked in and ready to go and able to make some plays early. I think if they do that in conjunction with the turnovers, then they've got a lead, and then maybe it's not the Chiefs' day. And they come in 5-0. They kind of don't need this one, not as badly as the Niners did, but the offense right off the bat, punt, interception, punt, field goal, punt, field goal in the first half there. They were lucky it was 14-6, like you said.
What, no first downs in the first half?
Yeah, and
maybe
the one was on a penalty.
Right.
The one was on the PI against Kittle.
At halftime, they had 6 penalties and 5 first downs, and so you're not going to win a whole lot like that. The big picture here is, we assume they're all going to get healthy, right? Because they've done that in past years where it's like, okay, you lose guys. Oh, my God, we're all healthy and we're making the run into the playoffs. But to lose Brandon Ayuk like this, especially after all of the offseason and all these kind of things, and it ends up after half the season, he's gone anyway. And so Kyle said to you guys after the post game or in the post game that, Ricky Pearsall had to play more. But that's the whole thing is, okay, now Pearsall is going to play more. Can Juwan Jennings get back? Debo has been largely ineffective outside of the Minnesota game. So, I know they need Christian McCaffrey back, and at some point they're going to have him back. And I know Kittle said after the game that he's, in the huddle, no offense to these guys, but he's looking around going, where the hell did everybody go?
Yeah.
But then I look at Kansas City. Their leading receiver today was Noah Gray. I mean, their top 2 receivers are out. Their running back is out. The Lions smoked the Vikings today. Aiden Hutchinson, who might be the defensive player of the year, he's out. Like, it's not a 49ers problem. Patrick Mahomes didn't have a lot of guys to throw to. Like I said, Kelsey had 17 yards. Their leading wide receiver had 19 yards. They won the football game. So, but the big picture to me now is, okay, this game's over. Debo's ineffective. Ayuk's out. What are they going to do here?
Yeah, the other thing George Kittle said post-game was the fact that young guys are going to be forced to grow up now. I mean, and Jacob Cowing, a couple of good plays. Jacob
If that
Cowing
ball's out in front of him like it should have been, that's a touchdown.
That's a touchdown, but he runs a good route there. They ran the little shorty to him. He picked up, I think, 9 yards.
Near the goal line.
Near the goal line. So, I mean, he's somebody that I think a lot of people who have watched training camp and how he came back from his injury in training camp, and, when you have depth, it means talented younger players maybe are not going to get opportunities. Well, a couple of guys go down, and all of a sudden those young guys are going to get a lot of opportunities, and you're going to need them. And so I think Jacob Cowing as a playmaker, I think Ricky Pearsall as he continues to get into shape. I mean, these are going to be guys now that the 49ers are going to be forced to rely on, in addition to getting Christian McCaffrey back and Juwan Jennings to help offset some of the loss of Ayuk. And I think the real gut punch on Ayuk, and George Kittle mentioned this, is he feels really bad for Ayuk because you could tell, he said Ayuk had a great week of practice, and it was really the first week for him that he thought Ayuk was rounding into form and like finding himself and getting into that rhythm because of the missed time. And like he was just looking like the guy that had been here last year. And I know he had the drop today, but now just as he's maybe about to be Brandon Ayuk again, he's done for the year.
Yeah, that's too bad. And that was a bad injury. JD, by the way, JD, not only on the Niners coverage, but he does it all. So you're going to be leaving town this week, right? Warriors are starting the season. So
yeah, I'm going to be up in Portland for the Warriors opener on Wednesday, and we'll have our first Dubs OT show from Portland immediately following that game. I'll be covering it and on the air with my guy Greg Silver, and we're going big those first couple of games at Portland, at Utah. Dubs OT on the road this week, Wednesday and Friday, and then I'll see you guys back here on Sunday.
Awesome. You're the
It's
best.
really basketball season.
It is. Isn't that crazy?
Jeez.
It is. So JD, not only doing the great work here with the 49ers, but also heading off of the Dubs as they start this week. All right, the 49ers go down 28-18 to the Chiefs. We'll come back and talk more about it next, only here on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to win when we don't stop the run during the game, especially late in the game, and then especially in the red zone when they got down there, we weren't able to stop them. So we got to hold them to 3 in those situations and be better in the run game. And at this point, nobody's going to feel sorry for us. Honestly, you got to look in the mirror, see where we can be better as a defense, and then just keep moving forward.
That's the voice of Fred Warner. Yeah, they didn't stop the run. 184 yards on the ground today. They ran it 39 times, 39 carries for 184, 4.7 a clip, and 4 rushing touchdowns for the Chiefs. Niners have to turn things around quickly with a bye week following their game against the Dallas Cowboys and an NFC opponent coming off of a bye themselves after a huge loss to Detroit. That is what's on tap. Sponsored by Fieldwork Brewing Company with 8 locations around Northern California. Fresh beer is always right around the corner. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ Dennis Brown, John Lund wrapping things up here following a Niner 28-18 loss to the Chiefs. I said earlier, guys, and just final thoughts on this one, this isn't really one I feel like you can flush. This is when you have to sort of figure out what went wrong and try to turn things around quickly.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, and we were just talking about it here. It's it's good. I think that Kyle Shanahan said we got our butts kicked. It wasn't one of those things where he made a bunch of excuses. Guys went down, Debo was sick, and all these different things. He said we got our butts kicked. So hopefully this week into practice, he kind of puts that on the practice field. I mean, this is urgent. I mean, you got to go in and you got to whip some butt against Dallas. And you got to turn this back into a 500 or play. What is it? They'll be 4-4 if they can get the one next week, right? You got to. I mean, because you did get your butt kicked. There's no longer quick memory and forget about it and move on from there. You got to watch him figure out why you didn't play well.
Yeah, and the biggest story to me is Brandon Ayuk, because as JD just said, he was rounded into form, and now it's like, hey, Ricky, glad you're back, but there's no easing you into this thing, and Jacob Cowing and guys like that, and Debo's got to look in the mirror and say, I got to be more effective. I don't know if what it is. I know today was 6, so I'm throwing this side, throwing that out. But they got to get some production from the offense. Brock wasn't very good. And then you just mentioned it, Copes. They ran all over him. And, special teams. I mean, we can always put a space for special teams and give up 55-yard punt return. So, it's across the board. And you could tell Kyle in the postgame, he wasn't happy with anybody. And reports were that, he went over to Brock's locker and spoke to him for quite a long time. And Brock said that the second one to Bell was his fault. The first one to Kittle was bracketed. That was his fault. Third one in the end zone, I know the ball got tipped, but Conley was double covered. He had guys on either side of him on the third interception. So Brock just didn't have a good day. He's got to bounce back. And Dallas has always been an elixir for this team, so maybe they can be that again. But this is one of those games where you go 3-5. Again, you can win the division because it's not a very good division. But if you want to be where the 49ers usually are, which is near the top of this whole thing, that's going to be a real challenge from this point forward. We're
going to sign off here on KNBR. Make sure you stay tuned all week long, starting 6 a.m. tomorrow with Murph and Marcus for all your 49er coverage, taking you all the way up through 7 o'clock with Niners Nightly and Larry Krueger, and then, of course, Sports Phone KNBR. And again, Warriors tip-off on Wednesday night. You'll get some Dubs OT coming your way, so stay locked here for all your Warriors stuff, but especially for all your 49er news as the Niners lose Brandon Ayuk today as well, and they fear it's an ACL injury, which then would make things a whole lot more difficult for this team at 3-4 as it stands right now. For the Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, for John Lund, I'm Adam Copeland. Thank you so much to Kyle behind the board today, and Kyle and Ryan, who are doing all of our sound cutting and editing today. Thanks to Tim, by the way, who's always doing a great job producing the show. We're going to throw you to Sunday Night Football. They've just hit halftime. Sunday Night Football, the Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The sports continue as the Niners lose 28-18 to the Kansas City Chiefs on the Sports Leader.